Thanks so much for joining us for Storm Watch. In just a second, we'll have a look at the possibility of additional severe thunderstorms in the mid part of the nation. Also, that potential of some flooding rains and some big storms on the coast of North Carolina. We've been tracking the radar. It appears that this center circulation with Allison may be getting closer to the coast. With all the details of Allison in the tropics, let's head over to our expert desk with John Hope.
Well, thank you, Rich. Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, I think it is edging a little bit closer to the coast, the center is. It didn't move very much this morning, and now we see a very slight movement. We're not ready to say, though, that the center is going to emerge over the water, but we'll have to watch that very carefully. And that is critical because if it should get back out over the water, then the chances of this storm regenerating are a lot greater than they are now. Right now, over land, we don't have too much to worry about that. But we still see the spin here, centered just north of Wilmington, and the showers and thunderstorms associated with it are increasing, if anything, this afternoon, especially around to the west. We see a lot going on there that we didn't see this morning, and then very heavy bands coming in to North Carolina from the east. Last night they got some pretty strong winds there on the Outer Banks on some of the data buoys, and then this morning they died off, but with those heavier showers coming in once again, we are likely to see some increase. Right about in here, north of Wilmington, right about in this area, is where the center of circulation is, and it's drifting ever so slowly, we think now, toward the east. And the bad part of all this is, of course, rain right now we feel is going to be the major impact, and since it is stationary or nearly stationary, that means it's going to rain over the same area for quite some time, and that, of course, is what causes some of these extremely heavy rains. Looking at some of our totals in South Carolina and North Carolina, we see in particular Leesburg had up to 12 inches, and certainly today, in the next 24 hours, we expect widespread areas of 3 to 5 inches, and some, I'm afraid, will have more than that. That's about all we have to worry about today in the tropics. As we look out over the Atlantic Ocean, the intertropical convergence zone is active enough down here, but that's pretty far south and a bit too early to worry about. In the Gulf of Mexico, which is where we look for development this time of year, it couldn't be very much clearer than it is, and the same is true in the Caribbean. A few showers over some of the bigger islands this afternoon because of the heating of the day, but by and large we have just beautiful weather throughout the Caribbean. And nothing to be concerned about off the west coast of Mexico on the Pacific side either. So that'll do it for this time. Now back to Rich.
All right, thank you, John.
Residents further up the East Coast are waiting to see what it will do. Folks in Georgia, though, already have dealt with Allison. It left a mess in this section of Baldwin County, which was flooded by the heavy rains. Governor Roy Barnes issued a state of emergency yesterday for 14 eastern Georgia counties left underwater, more or less, by Allison, or what's left of Allison. Boy, this circulation just doesn't want to go away. There it is, pinwheeling its way here along the eastern seaboard. Meanwhile, we have a smattering of heavier showers and thunderstorms on this visible picture wherever you see these bright white blobs blowing up from the panhandle of Florida through southern parts of Alabama and Mississippi. Those are the tops of very large thunderstorms, and we'll show those to you on radar in just a moment. Broad southerly flow here ahead of our approaching cold front, helping to draw this moisture in. But how much rain has fallen from what's left of Allison? A lot. A foot at Leesburg, South Carolina in the last, about 24 hours. Hatteras has picked up close to 2 inches, and still more rain coming there. There's Columbia at about 1 inch and a little over 3/4. Sumter, South Carolina, about 2.5 inches. Heaviest rain now is in North Carolina, and that is why some of the coastal Piedmont areas under flash flood watches at the present time. Here's a look at Allison as it pinwheels its way around. And what is a little bit ominous here is that the center of the circulation, probably about right in here, is now right on the coast, or very close to the coast. And if that center gets back out over the water, it is not out of the question that there could be a regeneration of this system, and it may have to be renamed if it were to gather strength. The Hurricane Hunter aircraft was scheduled to go out and take a look at this today. That has been rescheduled for tomorrow. Things may change here, but we've got to keep a watch on this one very closely. Its movement is very, very slow, but because it's moving so slowly, the potential for heavy rain is always there, and there's going to be some more flooding. There are some big thunderstorms developing in some of these areas of east. Severe weather-wise, things already getting active in the lower 48. We have a brand new severe thunderstorm watch for parts of eastern Kansas, western Missouri, and that may be the first of many watches again this afternoon. But let's start off first of all with the tropics and with all the details of the remnants of what was Allison. Here's John Hope.
Well, thank you, Jeff. And the remnants of what was Allison certainly been with us a long time, coming up on 10 days now. And I'm afraid we're going to be dealing with it for another day or two. Now, we had some change this afternoon, a little bit of a wobble to the right. The storm center, the circulation center was inland this morning, and it's edged a little bit toward the coast. And it's getting pretty close to the coast now, maybe about half over the coast, up northeast of Wilmington, about over Topsail Beach. And it may get out over the water a little bit further, and that's very critical because if it gets out over the water, then it'll have a chance to regenerate. We know as long as the center is over land, it won't do that. And here again, we can see the center apparently right on the coast, and this is going to give us a little bit of potential for some regeneration, very likely, even if it doesn't get fully over the coast, and it might even do that. Now, we don't see any very strong winds out there at the present time, so we think that the worst would happen on the short term would be for this to be reclassified as a tropical depression. We don't think the winds are strong enough for a tropical storm yet. But a widespread area of rain, the main concern of this, just as it has been all along, the main impact is heavy rain. And the fact that it's not moving very much is going to result in some of these heavy rains being prolonged over the same area, and you know what kind of a flooding that can produce. But that's the way it looks, and we'll be watching. Here's some rainfall totals as of 2 o'clock this morning, and you can see that it won 12 inches there at Leesburg, South Carolina, and we've had a number of reports in excess of 6 inches, and in the next 12 hours we would not be surprised to see 3 to 5 inches in some places and even more than that in isolated spots. The rest of the tropics looking pretty benign. Tropical wave out here in the mid-Atlantic, far to the south. Nothing to worry about from that quarter for sure. The Gulf of Mexico looking about as clear as it could possibly look, and the Caribbean Sea likewise, and the Gulf and the Caribbean are the places we most look to for development this time of year, so we're quite confident we're not going to see any development in either one of those places anytime in the near future. And some disturbed weather off the west coast of Mexico, but I don't see anything out there that seems to be developing into a tropical depression. That's it for this time. Now back to Jeff.